What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning into the Bonus Points Last Week in Rugby series. This episode is brought to you by Whalebird Kombucha, the Rugby Nation, and OsteoStrong LA. Once again, I'm your host, TJ Olsen, and this is our last episode of 2020. We've got an exciting show in store for you today, lots to unpack, and a very special guest. But before we get into that, I've got to welcome our regular host, Tavita Halafia, aka rapper Novel Capote, and James Tesserero. Fellas, it's been one heck of a year and glad to finish this podcast off on a high. And I know this year has been obviously a roller coaster for a lot of us, but what was your favorite moment of 2020? James, I'll start with you first.
Mate, for me, it was the RGs knocking off the All Blacks in that test match about a month ago. Big boil over, opened up the tournament, the Rugby Championship tournament, and anytime that we have a larger group of tier one countries and a bigger pool of countries who can beat the top, it's good for our sport and makes international rugby more interesting. So that'd be mine.
I've said it a million times. I wanna disagree with it, but I just can't. It's great for rugby, but terrible for the All Blacks, but it's great for rugby. So, Hala, what about you?
Hey, man, it was just seeing Hooper, the Wallabies captain, step up this year and really lead his team around the paddock. I've been very vocal about his selection.
You have been, really?
I don't know if anyone's listened. I'm not a big fan. But this year, I'll be honest, I really saw a captain and a leader stand up this year. And his numbers around the paddock for every game he's played has been amazing. So I really enjoyed just getting my ass handed to me, sitting back and watching an amazing number 7 and captain lead his team around the park.
For me, it was definitely the inception of the competitions in Super Rugby. It was great to see Super Rugby AU and Super Rugby Aotearoa function on their own accord and seeing what their own countries can do to help their own sport. I do believe moving forward, having this competition in 2021, having them separated and then coming together as a trans-Tasman competition, I think it's going to be very exciting. But I'm very excited just to see 2020 finish. I'm done with it. I'm see you later. 2021, you bring on a great year coming. You've got the Olympics coming up. You've got the inception of the Super Rugby competition. You've got some other amazing rugby looking forward to. But without further ado, let's play this intro music for the last time of 2020. All right, guys. Well, this past weekend, we witnessed the first ever meeting between the Maori All Blacks and the brand new Moana Pasifika team, and it turned out to be better than we ever hoped for. So I pulled some strings last minute for this segment, and we're lucky to be joined by one of the players who debuted on that Maori side. Please welcome to the show Bay of Plenty Steamers player and one of the newest Maori All Blacks players. Damn it, I'm proud to say that. Mr. Matthew Skipwith Garland. Kia ora, Matt. Welcome back to the show. How are you? What's going on?
Kia ora, my bro. Kia ora, guys. It was like, bro, it's pretty much all a dream. It's just happened so fast like that. And yeah, oh man. I'm still buzzing. I'm still pinching myself.
I was on Facebook and then I was talking to your little brother and then he posted up a photo and I was like, oh, it's pretty awesome. You get to see him in the squad. And he goes, he just got injury replacement for Jonah Lowe. And I was standing in the middle of my house dancing, going crazy. I was so stoked about that. But First off, I just want to say congratulations from all of us on having such a great debut in the Māoris. And before we talk about the gameplay, I want to talk about the cultural aspects for both the Māori and the Moana side. So ever since I've known you, you've always been a very proud Māori man. You've had a strong connection to your whānau, to your iwi, to your whenua.
Right.
What was it like being named in a squad and being in a camp where the focus was not just rugby, also Indigenous cultures?
Right, it's an honour and a privilege, to be honest. It's always been a dream of mine to represent my people, my culture, my country, really, to be honest. But not just like Māori in New Zealand, but Māori all around the world. Like, we all identify ourselves as Māori, so it doesn't matter where you live or where you come from, we're always going to be Māori. So to do that was a dream come true, and to get a late call-up also was like, 24 hours before the game, bro. I was expecting to just sit on the bench and be water boy for the boys, and then a day before the game, just before captain's run, the coach comes up to me and he's like, "Matty, you're on the bench." I was like, "What? For real?" He's like, "Yeah." "Wait, you're on the bench?" I was like, "Yeah." To be honest, I felt like crying, but I couldn't really cry in front of the boys and the coaches. So, it was an emotional roller coaster, to be honest. Yeah, crazy, awesome, man.
How was that? Like coming from the camp, being called up, and getting on the field. I was with TJ when we were watching the game.
Yeah,
and bro, like it was something different. Hey, there was something different in the air. TJ and I are usually back in the same teams, but we made sure we were on every two different sides of the room while watching the game. What was that like being on the field, having your brothers from your team and representing the Maori people around the world, like you just said, then having your for want of a better word, the brotherhood of the South Pacific in the Moana Pasifika team on the field as well, showing their heart and on their sleeve and playing with big pride in their cultures. What was that like on the field? Like comparatively to any other game you sort of played before?
Yeah, it was for me. I've never experienced a game like that, to be honest. Like about a couple of days beforehand, we actually, both teams, the Moana Pasifika and the Maori team, we got a pōwhiri onto Tūranga Waiwai in the Waikato there, and to be in front of the Maori King and for both teams to be acknowledged as not two separate entities, but like one united front as a Pasifika whānau. Because we all whakapapa back from the same island. So, it was hard. It wasn't like it was hard for me to go out there and compete against like brothers I've known for a few years now throughout Mitre 10 Cup and stuff. So, like, we all come from provinces like Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay. We're all brothers when we're together. But for these two, like me representing Māoris and a couple of my boys that I played with that are representing Moana Pasifika, it's pretty much like we're all brothers at the end of the day. So that 80 minutes was that 80-minute game was more than just the rugby game for us. It was us taking a stand to represent how much Moana Pasifika and Māoris do for this game called rugby. So and it's just for me it's the pinnacle of Pacific rugby and Māori rugby. So I loved it, bro. It was unreal.
Awesome.
I don't know if I'll ever experience a occasion like that. It's
I
unreal.
think it was watching it. There was just like you said. It's the analogy that we may be on different islands, but we're not disconnected by the sea. We're connected by it. Yeah. And we saw that physical representation of it on the field, and where there was pride in the jerseys you were wearing and the cultures you were representing. But at the end of the day, there was something bigger on that field, and what we were seeing was, just a real life camaraderie, and also, just like a brotherhood. It's like, you're trying to get one up on your brother too, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, physically that was amazing.
like the legendary All Black Sir Michael Jones, he was he put it as like Maori All Blacks being the big brother for the Moana Pasifika team. It was like little brother versus big brother, and it was unreal, to be honest. I'm still buzzing. Like, it's crazy.
You still be,
I just hope that they kind of make this annually, or they just make this occasion grow to something bigger, because there's so much talent coming out of the Pacific, and we all know that there's not too many other pathways besides New Zealand and Australian rugby that kind of fast-track talent. So hopefully this Moana Pasifika team gets to showcase more of their talent in hopefully this Super Rugby extension competition, hopefully in a couple of years. So.
For real, man. For real.
Matthew, question from me, mate. Let's continue to talk about Indigenous recognition in rugby and switch to my homeland of Australia. I understand you played a bit
G'day.
of club rugby
G'day,
back in
James.
Australia.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think you'd agree that we Australian rugby don't do as good a job in kind of I guess recognising and fostering Indigenous rugby in Australia. On the weekend, we had a test match against Argentina. We wore the Indigenous jerseys, which everyone was pretty psyched about. And then we gave the first verse of our anthem in Australian Aboriginal language. So I guess I don't think it's debatable that we don't do as good a job, but if from your experience in Australian club rugby, is there anything we could do in Australia to probably improve the way we tap into the very, very talented Australian Indigenous rugby talent?
Putting you on the
Probably, like I know that they've got a like a team back in Brisbane or Australia called the Lloyd McDermott the Lloyd McDermott team to that recognised Indigenous Australian rugby players, and they put them in a team and competed in schoolboy level and sevens level. But I think maybe like creating like a academy, maybe like, or a team, like a team or an academy, similar to what New Zealand Rugby does for us Māoris. Like they've just started like a under-18s New Zealand Māori side, like an academy pathway through Māori rugby, but it's just specifically aimed for Māori players, but it reconnects them to their marae, where they come from, their whenua, their maunga, their awa. So if Australian rugby can kind of replicate that over in Australia and give Indigenous Australians an identity in rugby, because they're representing, they're talented as well in their own right, like AFL, rugby league, rugby union. So if they can kind of do that over there, man, far out, it would help not only Australian rugby but Indigenous rugby as well. So
yeah, good answer. There's no easy answer to that, but I think
I know you put me on the spot. I was like, ooh.
Every Aussie rugby fan acknowledges that we're not doing as well as other countries are, and we're not doing as well as we should, and that's to our detriment. But coming up with like practical ways to fix that is a little bit harder.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a big change. It can slowly, one step at a time, little academies here and there, and work to something bigger.
And that was a big step on the weekend too for the Wallabies, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah, that was beautiful to see.
That was the highlight of the match, mate. 5 minutes before kickoff.
That's happened twice to you guys now. National anthems locked down for the Wallabies.
That was the best national anthem I've ever heard in Australia. That was the best national anthem. It was beautiful. I loved it.
It was great.
And for example, like the Indigenous All Stars in the rugby league, bro, they've created something special out of that team as well. So if we could do that in rugby, man, even like a Australian Māoris team versus Australian Indigenous team, like an exhibition game like that for rugby union.
That'd be sick.
That would be amazing.
I'm an Australian-born Māori, so, and I'm not the only one out there.
Yeah, you're definitely not the only one. Yeah.
Stop trying to play in too many teams, G. Leave some room for the others, G. Come on, man.
Well,
hey,
James,
I had aspirations to play for the Wallabies, but that didn't work out. So
yeah, that's
it's all right. It's all right, bro. You've upgraded.
But James, I know we wanted to talk a little bit about the standing point in the hierarchy of New Zealand rugby when it comes to the Maori rugby. So what was your question that you had with Matt in regards to that?
Yeah, I changed my question on the fly a little bit, but my original question was kind of maybe Matthew could talk about like where does the New Zealand Maori program sit in the pathway to becoming an All Black? Every Kiwi rugby player wants to be an All Black. And I understand that that New Zealand Maori team you played in was a mixture of guys who have All Black caps, guys who are contracted Super Rugby, and guys who are Mitre 10 who are not yet Super Rugby. So is that typical, or was that just a function of who was available? And could you speak broadly about where that fits in the pathway?
Bro, to be honest, so if you ask a lot of people around New Zealand, around the rugby scene, they would put Maori All Blacks like the second team. Like, so there's All Blacks and then there's Maori All Blacks.
I would say that.
A lot of people will say that too, but I think they're mainly using the Maori team as a stepping stone for All Blacks. Because when you see, if you saw a lot of the squad, there's a lot of young, talented rugby players coming through Super Rugby level. So like your Quinta Players, your Billy Proctors, these guys are being slowly groomed into hopefully future All Blacks. So I'll say Māori All Blacks. I think they'll use it as a stepping stone to eventually graduate from Māori All Blacks into the All Blacks. So, but for me being 28, bro, I just wanted to live the dream as a Māori All Black, and I've done it. So I can retire a happy man, to be honest, bro. So, but for Māori All Blacks, it's definitely a stepping stone from Māori All Blacks and then graduating into the All Blacks one day. So, yeah.
So it's kind of different for different players at different levels of their career, but in itself, it's an achievement and it's a very high honour, and it's kind of, you can say you've played Maori All Blacks, you've played one of the highest kind of levels of international rugby, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, bro, definitely. And yeah, I always dreamt about it, bro, just being able to tell my kids and my grandkids and everything, like, oh, your dad or your grandfather.
Yeah, Uncle Matt playing for the Maori All Blacks. Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, I'll hand it over to you.
Sweet. So, Matty, being playing for the Steamers, the Mighty Bay of Plenty team, you had Clayton McMillan as your coach. What was it like with him coaching yourself now for the Māori team, the Māori All Blacks, and what was it like, that preparation, being that it was such on a short time span? What was the focus for the team and the focus from the coaches to prepare you for this matchup?
The focus for the team was pretty much, it wasn't anything too outrageous. He just gave us a simple game plan that we had to execute, and then on the back of that was obviously Māori rugby flair. So he gave us a game plan, we took it, and then just ran with it pretty much. Just play what's in front is one of his main coaching strategies. But yeah, pretty much connecting with whānau. The Māori way of playing rugby is obviously flair and razzle and everything like that. So yeah, nothing too out the gate, but knowing him before coming into the Māori environment was I knew how he coached, and I knew his expectations. So it wasn't hard for me to knuckle down and learn all the plays and stuff and do what I had to do and know my role within the squad. So yeah.
Was it Clayton that told you that you're playing?
So he funny story, bro.
That's why I'm asking. That's
the day before they named the squad, he rang me to let me know that I had made the squad, and that's I appreciated that, because that's stuff I like. He's a straight up guy, so he reached out first and said, "Oh, bro, obviously I didn't make it," so I was all good with that, and he gave me the reason why. And then I was at dinner with my partner on Monday night, and knowing that the team was based in Rotorua, where I'm based, and I was gonna watch the game and talk with the team and everything like that. And then me and my partner were at dinner on Monday night, and I saw his name pop up on my phone. I was going, normally I wouldn't answer it, but I was like, I told my partner, hold on, maybe I just need to take this call real quick. And then, answered the phone, and he asked, "Oh, what are you up to tomorrow?" I was like, "Oh, I'm at work. Why is that?" And he was like, "Nah, bro, I need you in the training 8 o'clock in the morning." I was like, "Bro, I'm late. Don't have to tell me twice." So,
Awesome.
it was. He told me that I wasn't in, and he told me that then I wasn't. So
bloody roller coaster, eh? That's something where you just up and down straight away. That's crazy.
Awesome.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Well, over the years, you've seen a lot of legends, you call them, play in a Maori All Blacks jersey. I've got a list that could go forever, but you've got guys who I think of: Jose Gia, Luke McAllister, Waka Nathan, and Piri Wipu. You've got some amazing people, but over the weekend, you got to stand side by side with two of my favourite Maori All Blacks players, and that's Liam Messam and Ash Dixon. So anybody who knows me, I've been on the Ash Dixon train for a long time. So with a very young side and 8 debutants in the team like yourself, what did those guys bring to the side?
Bro, just they're the epitome of Māori rugby. Those two, like their leadership skills are, bro, out of this world. Like some of the best captains I've ever played with. Obviously, I've had the pleasure of playing with Ash down in Hawke's Bay. So he's just one of the best captains in New Zealand rugby at the moment. And then Liam, just being the legend he is, like I told him before we split to our own ways. I shook his hand. I was like, "Bro, he was an honour to play with you." And he was like, "No, bro." So I was like, "Bro." For me, it was like I said, bro. It's a dream come true to play with guys like Ash Dixon and Liam Messam, and then also playing with future All Blacks and future Māori All Blacks, like these young guys coming out of the ranks. So, bro, it was unreal as.
The last thing I want to talk about is the haka. We can't not talk about it because the Māori All Blacks, they're known for their very own haka by the name of timotanga, and I know how much mana you show during a haka because, funnily enough, Matt and I both performed this haka at Polynesian night at school in grade 12. So I was first-hand witness at how well he can perform one. But not only did you get to perform a haka you grew up watching, it was also you got to do it after an amazing hybrid haka performed by the Moana Pasifika. So what was that experience like? Was it the lightning? Was it the goosebumps? I always get goosebumps when I watch it. What was that feeling like?
Bro, it was all the above, eh? Like I when I talk about it to like all the whānau and stuff asking about it, I'm like, man, it just gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to start doing it in the middle of the street. So bro, it was unreal. Like for me, a life goal for me is to perform kapaka on the big stage over here in New Zealand called Matatini. But I would have been happy just to do the haka, come off the field and sit down for the whole 80 minutes and just watch it. I would have been happy to do that.
Yeah.
Because like my whānau here in Rotorua, like Rotorua is known for being awesome kapa haka performers and everything like that. So me doing the haka for the Maori All Blacks, I would have been up there with like all the top guys in Rotorua. So to have the pleasure of doing it, bro, it was unreal. And it was funny, like when we had haka practice with the team.
Campbell to Waka, can you come to reception, please? Campbell to Waka to reception.
The co-markers would be like, "Oh, Maddie, do you know the haka?" I was like, yes, I actually do know the haka. I performed it at I performed the haka at my school Polynesian night, so I know it. It's all good. But and they were asking, "Oh, if you know it, hop up the front." I was like, I don't want to be up the front, but
You've said too much.
I'll be like the front, where you can kind of see me. But bro, it was, oh my god, it was a dream come true, bro. And to perform it with like Sean Wainui and Totoiro and Ash Dixon leading it, bro, it was like. And when the Moana Pasifika team, bro, started theirs, and halfway through theirs, I was like, let's go. I want to start right now. But we had to wait until the brothers finished so we could start ours. But nah, bro, it was unreal.
Bro, like I got goosebumps you talking about it right now, man. I was with TJ, like I said earlier, and bro, it was dead silent in our room. And the Moana Pasifika team did theirs, and then you guys did the haka, and we were like, we were like jumping up and down. We were like, oh my god, this is the best thing in the world.
I said it to Hala. It's the epitome of goosebumps and huckers was the 2010 one that Jose Gear did with Liam Messam at the front. Because that's the most I've ever felt. I've gotten the goosebumps like crazy. And I turned to Hala after that and I said, that haka rivals it. And he looked at me and he was like, whoa, you've never said that before. And I was like, that's how good it is. So, yeah. Oh, bro, man.
It was mean, bro.
Dude, it radiated that energy, that mana that was straight through the TVs, bro. Like, I think that's going to be a haka that's going to go down for a long time. People are going to YouTube that, and then people are going to understand, like, that's and I think against the Moana Pasifika, it's such a poignant haka in a moment in time that's going to live for a very long time, bro. And bro, just super happy that you were a part of that we got to witness it, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Matt, I just want to say on behalf of me, obviously, I've been sending you crazy messages for the past couple of weeks just because I'm so proud as a friend. And just from all of us here from the bonus point, we just want to say congratulations on a great Mitre 10 campaign, making your debut for the Māori this past weekend. We hope you and the whānau stay safe over Christmas break, and we can't wait to see what happens in 2021. We're super excited. Is there any final words before we let you go?
No, I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity to share my story and congratulations on your guys' bonus point podcast taking off, and all the best for the future, and hopefully catch up with you guys soon, if not in America or back home in New Zealand or in Australia. So,
let's
thanks,
hope
guys.
So. Nah, it's great, man. Love you, bro. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Kia ora, brother.
Yo,
ka kite. So.
All right, guys. Well, over the weekend, we saw the conclusion of the Tri-Nations tournament between the Wallabies and the Pumas. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer every week we review a matchup between these two sides, but I've got to say the best thing about the game wasn't any of the gameplay. It was both of the team jerseys. So when you look on paper, both teams have some pretty amazing talent. You can't lie about that. But both of them, in my opinion, they played terribly. It was awful to watch. And along with the game being a draw again, both sides had double-digit missed tackles and both conceded at least 18 turnovers each. And I'm saying at least. So I think the Wallabies ended up having 24. So I think the two statistics that really break down who played an average game and who had a terrible game are these. So Australia, who had 66% of the possession and won 73% of the rucks, they couldn't get the win over Argentina. So I know that doesn't accurately depict how the Wallabies played, but if you have 60% of the possession, in my opinion, you can't get an extra point on top of a team. If I'm Dave Rennie, I'm pissed. So, James, you watched this game and you didn't have a very high opinion on it either, but who did you think had the worst game, Australia or Argentina?
Australia were poor, mate. We just don't play the conditions well. The effort was there. The guys seemed keyed in, but just execution was woeful. Had enough territory and possession to win that game 3 times over, and just execution was poor. Losing the ball in contact, unforced errors, and then some forced errors. But, mate, we actually never really looked like scoring in Argentina until that Hooper Maul. And Argentina looked pretty comfortable defending us, and they looked more comfortable without the ball. So, mate, we just weren't good enough.
Alan, what are your thoughts?
Totally agree with everything James has said. The Argentinians are a defensive side. So anytime that they've got to defend for a prolonged amount of periods of time, they're actually very comfortable doing it. They're actually really good doing it. So them not having possession doesn't worry them. So I think the worrying factor here is Australia's not being able to convert that possession percentage into points. And that's a very, very big problem, because there's more teams out there in the whole wide world that don't mind defensive rugby games.
So I want to talk about the one play that three of us were all shocked by, and that was the Michael Hooper yellow card he received for a clean out. So all of us, when we watched it together on the replay, we were all sitting on the couch, and James, you were talking us through it. We all said, if that can't be a clean out, what can be? So I don't want to go into too much detail because, James, I think you summed this up perfectly when you talked to us. So what are your thoughts on this clean out, and why was it penalised?
So I think the reason why it was carded, you probably have to look back 15 minutes to the card on Crema from Argentina. And watching it in real time, I remember watching Crema get yellow carded. He was astonished. And I remember thinking that that's one of the softest yellow cards I've seen in an international match, maybe the softest. And then the Hooper clean out was just about textbook, almost perfect. And he was yellowed for that. And that was the softest, probably the least justified yellow card I've seen in a contact sport. So, Matt, I think the referee painted himself into a corner by the previous soft yellow card, and the RG was the RG10. Sanchez got his head right over the ball, inches off the ground, and as coaches, you're always trying to teach shoulders below shoulders. And in all the contact areas, the lower contact's going to win. So Hooper came in with really good shape. His shoulders were low. He got shoulders under shoulders. The contacts, like the RG had his head right over the ball. So it sets a really dangerous precedent where if you're poaching and you put your head right over the ball, there's now no real correct way to enter legally through the gate, get your height low and make contact and avoid that head area if that head is right over the ball and inches off the ground. So it was soft. It was a massive shame because I feel like it changed the game, and just a lot of people who are a 50-50 rugby fans probably just switch off and probably don't watch the next game, and that's the biggest travesty.
That's very disappointing. And Hala, you mentioned before you've been quite tough on Hooper, but you saw him lead quite well over the weekend, and the more that he was able to put together with Tupou, I believe it was, and able to score that try. We were talking about it off air. Is the statistic is the first ever Wallaby to ever become a forward to score 20 tries. So that's something very impressive, and I think the mood was kind of dampened with him getting that yellow card. So in regards to when you look at him overall, what are your thoughts on him as a player for this whole Wallabies campaign?
Look, for this, well, I think what needs to be said is prior to this year, I had very low thoughts on him in regards to being the best number 7 in Australia and also being, and more importantly, being a leader and a captain for that team. I've got many reasons, but the biggest one for me is his attitude on the field. I just felt that as a captain and as a leader, when he has a bad game, his head goes down, his communication stops. And he does tend to make a lot more mistakes than usual, namely hands in the ruck and also just being that little bit too eager and is caught offside. This year, though, what we saw is, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was 2020. In my personal opinion, I feel as though he got smarter at the ruck. I think as a 7, you can see him analysing the breakdown and knowing when to get in to snaffle that ball or disrupt the play and knowing when to just split that line off to the side and be that first defensive player to really rush that line. And more often than not, he was making the right call. And for me, what that did for the Wallabies was sort of set that line speed. And when he went and when there were issues, he spoke to the referee, and you could tell he wasn't, from what I've seen previously, both at Super Rugby level and international level, is he was communicating really well. He was asking the right questions. He was definitely communicating to his team more. And I thought that was an amazing asset to have, especially in such a disruptive year. Unfortunately, I don't think that the teams really, if everyone lifted like he lifted this year, I dare say the Wallabies go very close to pushing the All Blacks off the Tri-Nations ladder.
Well, we were talking about it as well early on in the year. We were saying, look how good, if the Wallabies can all get a united front going, they've got a lot of pieces that are really putting
100%, man.
So
100%. Like, look, I've got no qualms in saying what I saw is he's the best 7 in this Tri-Nation series. I thought he played ridiculously well. And this year this is a good year for him across all facets on the field and his leadership on the field and off the field. And I think moving forward, now it's going to be quite big shoes to fill. And, I'm talking shoes like the likes of David Wilson, who was a great Lucy back in the day. And there was that spot where after he left where the Reds were sort of struggling a bit. The Wallabies were going through 6s and 7s trying to find where they could find another David Wilson. And, even a Dr. Ikefu, do you know what I mean? Although Australia been pretty lucky in the number 8 department. But I think, this sets a real big tone. I think Hooper had an amazing year and deserves the praise that he's got. And for mine, he's definitely the best number 7 in the Tri-Nations. And I'll probably hold him up there in the top 3 for me at number 7 worldwide.
Okay, we'll finish off with this point. James, I just want you to talk about, we were talking about the wet weather aspect. So obviously it was pissing down with rain on the weekend. It wasn't ideal conditions to play the game in. What were your thoughts? You've said there was a good statistic when it comes to wet weather, Australian rugby, it doesn't really gel very well, does it?
No, I think the last time I heard our winning percentage in wet weather rugby was something like 20%. And that was years ago that I heard that statistic published, but it certainly hasn't got any better. And I can't remember, since that statistic was published, we've lost 2 games to Scotland in wet weather. Every time there's a drop of moisture, the All Blacks beat us pretty comfortably. We just don't really play the conditions well. And some of that is kind of, we have in Australia a real commitment to ball in hand rugby and using the ball, and we probably don't kick the ball as well as other countries, and we don't line out as well as other countries, and our scrum is now getting respectable. But all the things that come along with a wet weather messy game don't really favour the way we try to play.
Fair enough. Okay.
Hey, can I throw in a curveball?
Yeah.
Just off the 2 games, the 2 draws. We're talking about 2 teams who have beaten the All Blacks and then somehow drawn with each other. Now, I've been thinking about this for the last week. I honestly can't understand, and this has nothing to do with weather either, is it that these teams are lifting to beat the All Blacks because they know in their heads mentally that this is the bee's knees, the duck's nuts, the numero uno, regardless of the standings? Because I think they're sitting at 2nd or 3rd at the moment. And if that's the case, how do these teams? How does Argentina and Australia amend that? What is it? A selection process? Is it a team leadership process? What is this that is happening to these teams?
I think we spoke about it earlier on. Is one aspect that I could put a finger on is taking some of the teams, they're taking the aura out of it. Like we had the younger players who are from the Wallabies in the 2020 for the under 20s. They're not afraid of with All Blacks, where as opposed to a lot of Argentinian players that have played the All Blacks over years, they would have put up good battles and lost over and over again. So it's something where I think Australia, with this new crop coming in, they provide a good aspect where they're taking the aura out of it and they're taking the raw emotion out of it and they're just coming to play talented and straightforward rugby. That could be one aspect. James, what are your thoughts?
I agree with all that. It's I think the All Blacks are the way the Tri-Nation, the Rugby Championship table ultimately sat is probably a fair reflection. I think New Zealand were the best team in the competition, but not by a huge stretch. And I think if we play the same tournament next year, we probably win a couple of games. We maybe finish 2nd. If a few things break right, we win the whole tournament. We being Australia, obviously. I don't think there's a huge gap between New Zealand and the other 2 countries. And I think if we play enough games, we'll draw a few, we'll win a few, but New Zealand will probably win the balance of them.
Is there?
I think yeah.
Oh no, sorry, you can go.
So just a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the All Blacks have got an amazing ability to just front up mentally for every match. and some of the aura has gone away from the All Blacks. And there's also seems to be a little bit of potentially a slip in the mental discipline in terms of fronting up for 6 consecutive Test matches on 6 consecutive Saturdays. Is that what they played? Or maybe 5 Test matches over 6.
Yeah.
Or 5 over 6 weeks. It's like that's so. If the All Blacks are playing 6 consecutive Test matches, maybe we think they'll fall asleep on one of them and drop a game they should win, and that's something which is different from previous All Blacks teams.
All right, well, we'll take a quick break and we'll finish off with our bonus point segment. So it's called the bonus point for a reason, and today's bonus point segment is all about looking to the past. So we're going to talk all about the World Rugby players of the decade. The men's and the women's teams that were named was a very controversial list, but I think when it comes to rugby fans and rugby experts, I think there are a lot of people or a lot of countries who feel like their player was snubbed for a certain position. So it's going to be a very exciting segment with us because we're going to throw a lot of shit to the wall and see what sticks. But this segment is going to focus on the 215s teams named, but I will like to congratulate Jerry Tuwai and Portia Woodman on being named the Sevens players of the decades. When I personally think of Sevens from the past decade, those two names are the first that pop into my head.
Right.
So I also want to give a brief shout out to the players who competed in New Zealand's amazing Red Bull Ignite Sevens competition over the weekend. There are a lot of talented players in the Black Fern Sevens, All Black Sevens, and on the fringes of these programs. But it was great to see the 60 best available Sevens players rip up that competition. So be sure to check out the highlights on YouTube if you missed that out. But without further ado, let's get to talking about the 15th players of the decades and start off with the women first. So I see that evil grin you've got on your face, Hulla. I know you're going to.
It's not evil, man. It's not evil. It's just an opinion. If some people think it's evil, then that's on them. It's not on me.
Well, I personally think they didn't necessarily nail the women's spots for certain specific positions, especially number 6 with Linda Aitunu. I got to watch her play for Ponsonby, Auckland, and the Black Ferns at the back end of her career for a woman who has played in 5, I will repeat that, 5 World Cups. Her gameplay was still outstanding. So, Hulla, I'm going to come to you first because I can see you salivating and frothing from the mouth.
Whoa.
Are you happy with this team?
Look. My problem with both teams, but mainly the women, is it almost seems like a popularity award. Especially with the women's, I really do not like, bar a few of the players that are in there. I just don't think it's a true representation of players who have had amazing careers or who have had amazing careers who no longer play. And I get that comparatively to the men's, it's obviously going to be a little bit harder to try and get a women's top 15 of the decade in. But I was disappointed in that World Rugby had let this happen. You could go on and vote for it too. So this is all peer review too from the World Rugby. Well, it used to be IRB.com. It's not IRB.com. It's like World-Rugby, whatever. So yeah, man, I was slightly disappointed with the women's team. I thought they missed out on a few people, a few women. But at the same time, I just think that there are players there that shouldn't be there. And I think it's also like, I don't want to single out people because that seems really weird, because I think the whole process, especially for the women's team, is more a popular vote as opposed to stats on stats vote. And I think there's been some shining examples of women's 15s and 7s players throughout the world, throughout the last 10 years. And I just think some of those players, they missed out and they definitely deserve a spot.
James, women's team, your thoughts?
Mate, it was entirely English and New Zealand women. And to a certain extent, that's to be expected because those two programs have dominated women's World Rugby. So in that regard, probably I can't really make any complaints. I think you make the point that there's not enough between World Cups. There's not enough international matches between kind of women's nations to really develop women's 15s rugby and to really be able to make a really good decision about who is the best player at each position.
Well, I'll agree with that because, like I said, with Linda, she had played, like I said, in 5 World Cups, and she was a fraction of some players that had been only played in 1 World Cup for the All Blacks. So yeah, it's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but I think if you were to open this up to like women's sevens, you'd probably have like your top 7 players would be from 6 different countries, and you'd have some amazing debate because they play against each other 8 times a year.
So frequently,
And we would probably disagree very strongly on a heap of stuff, and I'd push for 4 Aussie chicks. But they play against each other at tournaments constantly, and you can kind of see the best players against the best players, and that's obviously good for women's rugby and makes these things a bit easier. But England and New Zealand have dominated women's 15s, and then probably the Canadian team I think is ranked 3rd. And I've spent a bit of time coaching rugby, women's rugby in Canada, and they feel like they've got a couple of world-class players in certain positions. So
Okay, that's
fair.
Yeah, and they've got a very, very strong women's competition at local, provincial, and international level. So probably missing a couple of Canadian ladies.
No, that's valid. Okay, well, let's move on to the men because I know all of us have a few thoughts on this team being named. Personally, I think they nailed a few spots, and I think especially in the fullback position, a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but a lot of people will make the argument for a few players. I look at how consistent Ben Smith and how integral to the All Blacks' success he was in the past decade. If you look at that, I think that's my pick. I love that pick.
Yep.
And a lot of people are going to be annoyed because they're going to think I have All Blacks bias, and I'm not going to say I don't, but it's not going to be Kieran Reid replacing the number 8 spot. I'd looked at the statistics. I can't do it. When looking at 2, I just can't. I love him. Can't do it. But my pick to replace him is in the number 13 jersey. So I personally would have named, wait for it, Conrad Smith over Brian O'Driscoll, because I'm not saying that O'Driscoll isn't an outstanding player. I'm just saying personally I feel that Conrad had more of an impact in this past decade and was more consistent in this past decade than Brian O'Driscoll. Brian O'Driscoll, great player. I think we spoke about it off air previously. As Brian O'Driscoll, a lot of his great success came from that previous decade.
Yeah.
But early the previous decade.
Yeah. So that's just me. And I know he was on another podcast and he was talking about the player who was named as the player of the decade, aka Richie McCaw, and he threw a bit of shade at that selection, saying it's New Zealand. They just had to pick it, but I think it's an interesting conversation to watch. But we'll go from there. James, I want to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a few direct changes and I've got a few shuffles. I also Brian O'Driscoll is one of my all-time favourite players, and he might be the best back I've ever seen. But his best rugby was last decade, and I'd say his best rugby was early in last decade. And towards the rugby he played this decade, he was just a very good test player. But over his career, I think he's the best centre I've ever seen, but he's got to go. We're harsh here at the bonus point.
Yeah, we are.
So, and then I was tossing up between Conrad Smith and Jonathan Davies, but I think probably based on the All Blacks era of dominance and the fact that Conrad Smith had a mortgage on the 13 jersey during that period of dominance, I think Conrad Smith gets the 13 ahead of Brian O'Driscoll. Ben Smith, George North, unfortunately, the Welsh winger, he is also out. Ben Smith goes to the wing, and Israel Folau in at fullback.
Yeah,
Israel Folau for a very large part of that decade was considered the best fullback. In fact, for most of the decade, he's probably considered the best fullback and propped up some pretty weak Wallabies teams and was just an absolute freak of nature. So he gets the fullback spot. And then keeping with the controversy, we have Sergio Parisi, also one of my favourite players. I think his best rugby was very early in the decade and last decade. So he goes out. Kieran Reid World Rugby Player of the Year, also a stalwart of those dominant All Blacks teams. Very unlucky, but he can't find a spot either. And we're going to move David Pocock to number 8, where he played 2 World Cups and was extremely influential. Pocock at number 8, and Thierry Dusautoir from France goes into number 6.
Yo, you know what, James? Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that is Dusautoir is probably one of the most underrated players this decade. He is a great leader on the field too.
Yeah. And I think he got there was a stretch including the 2011 World Cup that New Zealand beat France. And
Tonga beat France too, just for the record.
Did they?
Why have you got it? What does that have to do with
nothing? So I just figured I'd let that in with this right here.
I think Dusautoir got Player of the Tournament for the World Cup for France.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a stretch of at least 2 or 3 years where he was maybe the best forward in the world.
100%.
And a lot of Southern Hemisphere fans probably didn't see the best of his rugby, but he was incredible.
I think I agree with you, man. That's a disgustingly good back three.
See what happens. Yeah. I give you guys one job is just take out one player and then put in another one. And coach mode comes in and you're going, no, I'm shuffling this guy. I'm putting him to wing. I'm putting him to 8. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, I mean, I cut out for a little bit. I got from Israel Folau. Was that the first one or the?
That was his fullback change. He pushed Ben Smith to wing and then he put Israel Folau there.
Okay, so I'm going to agree. Who did you take out on wing?
George North.
Yeah. So I would also argue that Brian Habana's best years were 2005 to 2010. I think perhaps maybe he had a good 2011 World Cup. So I'm not convinced that Brian Habana has been the best winger of at least 2010 to 2020 decade. And that opens up a whole barrel of who could be there. But I do agree, Folau at fullback, Ben Smith instead of George North for sure. And I also agree with you, TJ, that Conrad Smith at 13. I think that's a fair statement. But I don't.
Yeah.
This is look. I mean, when it comes to front rows.
Oh, we're going front row. Let's go.
Well, okay. The only reason why I say this too is let's look down the barrel of okay, if you guys can tell me what do you want in a front row?
It's such an open loaded question. Jesus.
Scrum.
Yep.
Carries and cleanouts. Sinks the most beer at the post-match.
Right. Exactly. That's my number one.
So we can agree that Bismarck Duplessis, he's in.
Yeah.
I don't know that Owen Franks, for me, is there. I think Owen Franks, maybe 2015 to 2018, on fire. Untouchable. But for a decade, I'm not convinced that he handled his business how, we really should. And again, I'm not too sure who you'd replace him with.
See, I'm the one that's going to probably disagree with that. I do appreciate that opinion, but it's because I think when you look at every All Blacks game, well, not every All Blacks game, but majority of All Blacks games he played, especially when you look at scrummaging, he was a freak. He just destroyed people. And I think when you have to take in that dominance into factor, because I don't think you can put a finger on the pulse and name someone who was that reckless in scrums and could just cause so much havoc.
I think what he gave to rugby was amazing. I just don't think he was dominant over. We're asking for at least 5 years of dominance. I personally don't think he has given that.
Props can't even give 40 to 50 minutes in a game. You want them to give them 5 years. Jeez. Oh, man.
What are your thoughts, James?
Mate, I don't have huge problems with the front row. Matawira, I think, is an incredible player, but I always feel like he's come off the bench for most of his career and had a huge impact. And I don't know if somebody starts a world team of the tournament, a world team of the decade, and doesn't start most games, but he's a freak and he's an incredible player. I think the other thing, every Northern Hemisphere fan will probably say that Alan Wynne-Jones needs to push out one of the Kiwi locks.
See, I think that's what I was going to mention. I was going to say someone's going to say that, but I think when you put Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock together,
that's untouchable. You can't.
Yeah. I think
so. To bring him in, you got to cut one of the other two, and I can't do that either.
I think Alan, he's definitely had an amazing career. Like you can't take that away from him. But when I look at Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock, you just look at two locks that just did everything. And a lot of people will most likely say Sam first, Brodie second. That's fair. I'm putting Brodie first. I love Brodie.
I just think that I honestly think, just going back to the front row though, like Tony Woolcock deserves a special mention, bro.
Yeah, I'll pay that. I'll pay that.
Man, like he had a great World Cup campaign in 2015.
No,
and numerous World Cup campaigns.
I'll definitely play that. Well, lastly, let's talk about player of the decade, because I know every conversation I've had with James when it comes to Richie McCaw, he calls him a cheat. So there we go. That's just throwing it out there. I personally think that choosing Richie was the right move. Shocker. When you see what he did with the Crusaders and the All Blacks specifically, 148 tests. He finished with 131 wins. He lost 15 games, drawing 2 against Australia. You must like that one. He only lost against 4 nations, so Australia, England, France, and South Africa. They're powerhouses. And he's the most capped captain in the world with 110 and the most test wins as a captain with 97. I know that, again, this doesn't accurately depict if he's the best player, but I think when you look consistently over the decade, I've got to pick him. For me, it would be Richie and then Dan Carter. But I want to go to you, James, first, because I know you're making the face going, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to think of something bad to say about him, but it's hard to. Mate, he's, the All Blacks dominated the decade. He was the most powerful, most influential figure for the All Blacks. He owned the black number 7 jersey for the decade. A great captain, a great leader, totally dominant, dominated opponents, dominated the referees. Mate, he's incredible. He's the player of the decade, and there's not much. I guess you could push a case for Carter, but I feel like Carter could have been replaced and was replaced by other 10s, and New Zealand still win the World Cup. I think if you was that 2011, Carter got replaced twice.
Yeah,
and we went down to the fourth strip.
Stephen Donald.
I think we went down to Stephen Donald.
The beef.
Yeah. So I think New Zealand winning a World Cup with Stephen Donald at 10 weakens Carter's case.
He's been on the piss all off season.
Yeah, and he gets the call whitebait fishing. He's sitting there going, "Oh, I'm coming to play in the final for the All Blacks." Okay, let's do that.
So I think if you take Richie McCaw out of that side, I don't think they win the World Cup.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
I disagree. But I also think there's a good point that the All Blacks don't go as well, 100%. But off that logic, I think Israel Folau deserves a mention in regards to player of the decade into what he did for the Australian Wallaby team. I think without him, they don't win a lot of games. He was proven he had the record as most run meters in Super Rugby. At one point, had the most tries, both Super Rugby and international. And his post-contact running meters were, I think, 2016 was the highest that the Super Rugby's ever seen. So I also think that what he did in his shortish time in rugby union deserves a mention. And I think of the decade, the recent Wallabies between 2010 and 2020, I think he goes for a good push there as well. But he's no Richie McCaw, so, whatever.
I was gonna say I can't disagree with you that he has a stake in it. It's never gonna be. There will be someone who's drunk at a bar who will sit there and go, nope, he doesn't even deserve a mention when that person just doesn't use logic. So I definitely think that he has a stake in it. But yeah, that argument, I think Richie wins it 99% of the time.
Richie McCaw, like the player of the decade goes to the most decorated, hated player that ever lived. And that is Richard McCaw from the Canterbury Crusaders. Okay?
Mate, we try to, like, Aussies try to hate him. We're really trying to hate him, but he's kind of a humble, likable guy, and it makes it really hard.
Well, that's the thing.
He's a filthy cheat, but he's a very likable guy.
He's the filthy cheat you want on your team, isn't he, James?
Yeah.
Wait, so James, I want to finish this segment because I know you have a good story about Richie McCaw. Was it someone? I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah.
What was it?
Okay, so I was working up in the Northern Territory for the Northern Territory Rugby Union, working in coaching and development there. And our admin lady and front desk lady for the union, who kind of does all the admin for all the competitions and kind of pretty important job, she moved on. We hired a new lady who's just come out of New Zealand. And on her first day, she sets up at her desk, she sets up her family photos. I think there's a All Blacks jersey, a couple of different other like little bits and pieces of memorabilia from her time back home. And then there's a empty Corona bottle. And it's just sitting there and I go, right, what's the situation with the empty Corona bottle? And she goes into this story about how she was sitting in a beer garden at Christchurch one time, and Richie McCaw was sitting there drinking Coronas with a couple of his buddies, and she was just absolutely just starstruck and couldn't even, like, just paralyzed by just absolutely overwhelmed. And so she couldn't talk to him because she was overwhelmed. But as soon as he went away, they finished their beers and moved on. And she ran over and grabbed the beer that Richie McCaw had been drinking and kept it at home in New Zealand for a couple of years. And then when she moved to Australia, she had to clean it out a little bit and get some of the beer and the lime out of the beer. But that bottle still made its way and was like next to her family photos. And I remember watching that and listening to that story and saying, like, Phil Moore is a world-class number 7 for the Wallabies, but until middle-aged women are doing that with Phil Moore's empty beer bottles, they're probably not going to beat the All Blacks anytime soon.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Man. Well, that's.
I would have done the same.
That's the best way to end 2020 if I've ever heard of one. Well, before we end the show, I do want to take a moment to thank a lot of people for the bonus point this year being such a big success, especially during a pandemic. So first off, our amazing sponsors. We've got Whalebird Kombucha, the Rugby Nation, and OsteoStrong LA. They support us week in, week out. So thank you very much. All our guests this year was amazing to have rugby legends and some upcoming superstars in the making on the show, and some great rugby people overall, providing an amazing insight into their careers and their lives. All the fans and the listeners for making and keeping this show going this year. We will be using you as motivation when we continue in 2021. And lastly, my co-host and my analyst, Mr. Tavita Halafia, James Tesserero, thank you, gentlemen, for providing some great insights and some lovely banter. It was awesome this year. Fellas enjoyed it. Hala, you first. Any final words to end 2020?
Hey, yeah, no, thank you to all the sponsors. Thanks, TJ and James, too. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really surreal coming from like starting this while I was back in Australia and being back with you guys and having a good old chinwag as last weekend. So thank you so much. It's been awesome. I can't wait for 2021 when hopefully rugby's back to normal and we've got some more chinwags, debates, and in-depth analysis.
Yeah, definitely. James, what about you?
Mate, I think we've solved all of the problems of world rugby, Australia rugby, New Zealand rugby. I just hope somebody was taking notes.
Yo, we're about to get paid, boys.
Seriously. Wait for those.
It's been fun, mate. Checks. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, boys. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We're looking forward to 2021 and bringing the bonus point back and some great rugby coming in. Stay safe over the holidays or Christmas, and we will see you soon. Have a good evening.